This idea has been in my mind for a while now, and it's the endeavor to reconcile the bounds between calisthenics and weights. I've mentioned this a lot, and it's almost an intrinsic experience throughout my journey. And every single video, or at least whenever I do try and like articulate my thoughts, it's come to the point where a lot of it just really revolves around what I can do in both fields of weights and calisthenics in order to maximize my overall strength. So whether it be calisthenics focusing on like its skills, isometrics, dynamics, straight arm strength, versus the more hypertrophy and bodybuilding style like raw strength that comes with weighted movements. So in a way, we can see that the bench can have its benefits towards calisthenics, and or like the dip or like the planche has its benefits towards the bench. And in that sense, I'm trying to think, why is it that when I try and reconcile these two movements and like these disciplines, why is it that I'm not accelerating my progression, rather it's hindering my progression? And well, to be more specific, I'm talking about squatting. Squatting seems to just completely tax my body. I am the next day I have not mentally recovered, and the fatigue is just overloaded towards the next day. Whether it be due to the overall conditioning demand of the squat, and even though it's merely a prime mover towards the legs, it still uses like the CNS pathways and all that. And I don't really like the term, but it may be something to do with CNS fatigue. And because of the conflict between planche, which is very heavily emphasized towards the neurological adaptation and neurological connection, it seems pretty conceivable, or at least like predictable, that if you are to do a very hard day on squats, you will not be able to perform to your maximum potential for the following planche session. So, yes, I do understand. The mix between there is that one is upper body, one is lower body. Obviously, there's hardly an overlap in that skill transparency, or like that transfer of power. If I were to change this to bench versus skills, then obviously there's a strong notion of specificity with calisthenics that's a bit more demanded. You can't merely just do bench and think that you will improve the planche. You need to do specific leverages, like angled leanings, like leaning exercises, in order to ensure that you are doing the right muscles and recruiting the right fibers for the planche. And the bench, although it does help the chest, and the chest acts as a strong movement in the planche, it still isn't enough to emphasize the work on like shoulders, again, like the neurological connection. So when we think about it, I would honestly think that if we were to do both, the athlete that endeavors towards calisthenics and weights will be the peak athlete that can maximize their overall performance and everything. But it seems like this is different. It's changed. Notion has become conflicted because it may be a bit more practical to say that the athlete that is very ignorant to the idea of weights and is very stubborn to calisthenics would naturally be better at calisthenics because they've invested more time into it. So whether you increase the freedom in which you gain strength, whether it be like shoulder press to do for stronger like handstand push-ups, it may be that the actual athlete that just purely focuses on calisthenics will eventually improve much faster in skills where there's a stronger emphasis on specificity and neurological adaptation. So I guess in that way, obviously there's a strong sacrifice that's demanded if you were to put a lot of emphasis on purely focusing on skills. If I want to accelerate my planche progression, I shouldn't do legs. But obviously that goes completely against my philosophy, and I believe that legs is just something I enjoy, and it balances the body. So Again, this is not an argument to say that you shouldn't squat, but merely a statement that is, I believe, rather objective and something that we need to accept. So yeah, that's basically it, and I'll finish it off here.